All right, got a new project here. This is a 2002 Cobalt 246. Needs an engine. And maybe a few more things too. This thing needs a whole bunch of work. The outdrive is it's on the floor there. But this thing, it was in salt water for a long time, so it's a little messed up. This is bottom paint that's on it. It's not just marine growth or anything. It's like a protective layer. It's on the outdrive too. But this is a 24-foot boat. Good size for having lots of people on board. And it's got a Volvo Penta outdrive. This engine, it apparently is getting water in the cylinders from the engine block. I'm thinking because the engine block rusted through. I'm not 100% sure. I don't really care because it's got enough hours on it. It's about due for replacement anyway. I got a new engine from a truck, and we'll be swapping all the parts for the marine application over to the truck engine, including the camshaft. So the manifolds, risers, and a bunch of other parts are over here. Batteries over here. The thing is actually already ready to be disconnected. This is how I bought it. Engine mounts disconnected, all but one. That one right there is ready to come out. All the accessories are off, and just about ready to pick. With this one. So let's get to it. All right, this is day one. Succeeded in making a big mess, but this thing, it's just about stripped. Those manifolds were not fun, but extracted all of the studs, both sides. These still have the paper in them. It's a little crusty. I was a little worried about this, that it was about to rust through the water jackets, but it seems like it's okay. You know, of course, a truck in the Northeast is gonna get super crusty. And, you know, the more research I do about these engines, the marine application and the truck application are pretty similar. I thought about, swapping either the intake manifold or just the fuel injectors. They are technically a little different, a little heavier. It's more fuel in the marine application, but this is just a temporary engine swap anyway. This boat ultimately is going to get a Duramax, but it's like $7 grand worth of parts to put a Duramax in it. So this is just for now, for a few years. So I really want to just mess with this engine as little as possible. I'll take the valve covers and the coils, the wires, new plugs, obviously all the marine parts on the outside are getting swapped over. But I thought about swapping the cam because of the overlap, but the research I did said the overlap is pretty much the same. It's just a lift that's different. So I don't really see a reason to swap the whole camshaft because that's a lot of work and a high chance of screwing something up because I'm not exactly in the most sterile environment here. But I do have new parts like the manifold gaskets. I have the front cover gasket. I do have to swap these harmonic balancers. Got this bolt out already. I got a big puller I'm going to use for that. Let's swap the water pump and this water manifold that goes from head to head. It was different, so I'm just going to take this whole manifold and water pump, leave these hoses in and everything, just mess with it as little as possible. The blocks are identical. The accessories and all the bolt-on stuff on the outside is different. This is important that it's a marine alternator so it doesn't spark. And this is important, marine starter, same reason. But everything else is pretty well the same. I'm looking at even the intake manifold, it's the same. I figured they would have a different intake manifold, but I really can't see any difference with it. The only difference I see is the shape of this oil fill. This one kind of goes out to the side around this electric throttle body. But this one has a mechanical throttle body with a cable. So, obviously it's getting swapped over. Oh, also the oil pan is getting swapped over because they're different. And I have a new oil pan gasket to go with this. Stuff like this oil cooler. Obviously that's getting swapped over. The truck engine actually also has an oil cooler. Looks like an air to oil. It's in the same spot. But this one has, instead of a cooler it has an oil cooler, but it also has a remote filter right here. Because this is really difficult to reach when it's in the boat. So I swapped this over. It looks like it's kind of like in place of a filter, and then it goes through here. So it's easy enough. But these engine stands worked out really nice. $100 each, brand new. Can't believe how cheap these are. Work nice. So day 2, I'll be swapping all these parts on the outside over to here, including the raw water pump, harmonic balancer, the bracket for that. Strip the last of the truck parts off, like this bracket, this electric throttle body, and actually this knock sensor. The marine one does not have this, strangely. There's a plug in that spot. So, guess that works. But, yeah, I mean, even down to these little details here are identical. Well, this has a sensor, which that one doesn't, so I could swap this plate. That's easy enough. Let's make a gasket. But, the fuel rails, I see no reason to swap this intake manifold because these bolts are notorious for snapping off. And, based on the exhaust bolts, at least on this one, I'd rather not take that chance because then the engine is open, all those welding sparks are going to get into the intake runners, and into the oil and onto the camshaft and the lifters and all that stuff. So I'd rather just leave it well enough alone. So that's the plan. Leave this thing sealed up. All right. See you tomorrow. All right, so I ended up actually changing the intake manifold because the fuel injection system was different. Not only are the injectors bigger, but the fuel system on the truck was a returnless system, and this is obviously a return fuel system. So I ended up changing that out. I read somewhere that these bolts tend to snap off, but maybe that's in aluminum heads. These being iron heads, didn't have any trouble today, so that's good. Swapped out new plugs. These are the coils from the Volvo Penta. I think they were replaced right before I bought this thing, so I'm just running those. All the other accessories are in place, like the motor mounts. That's the oil cooler down here. The accessories are in the same spots. Belt is in good shape. This is where the fuel system goes, right here. One little weird thing is this hole. Where is it? Right here. That little hole right there is not threaded on the truck engine. So this dipstick's gonna be a little floppy, but you know, it is what it is. I swapped over these exhaust studs too. Yeah, this thing is it's getting pretty close. Got the lift points too. I'll put this water pump on. Once it runs, I'm going to run it without that so I don't burn up the impeller. You know, just briefly, just to make sure all the electrical stuff is in place. Yeah, this is it's going pretty well. Bit of a mess around here. This is a truck harness. Don't need that. But this engine, this is a Volvo Penta engine. It's pretty bad shape. This side it doesn't look that bad, but the oil that came out of this was really milky. And I mean, even this windage tray here is all rusty. The intake runners are rusty. You know, this one's really bad. But yeah, this side of the engine is pretty crusty. I don't know if that's from sitting or if it's from, say, getting water in the oil. I mean, you clearly had water in the oil from somewhere. I don't know where. But yeah, it's a good thing this engine is getting changed out because this thing is junk. Somebody they started taking this side apart. All the rockers are loose. But the other side is untouched. On this one, I did replace this seal and also the seal on this front cover because it's pretty difficult to get to when it's in the boat. It's down low and I gotta pull the harmonic balancer off. And I got the nice tool for it, but it's gonna be a pain in the boat. So I just changed that out. Preventative. I also put some RTV on the corners of the oil pan where it meets here and also on the back. Little things like this, you know. It's getting there. Now I need to get the exhaust manifolds on, and then I can pick it up and put the flywheel, the drive adapter, and the bell housing on. Then I can swing it into the boat. That'll be nice. Trying to get this thing running today, but we'll see how that goes. I have a limited time budget today. Let's do it. All right, after a bunch of monkeying around, find out where all these hoses go and the wiring harness, finally ready to pick this thing and put the flywheel on. That's not where that thing goes. It goes on the side of the riser. It's just a convenient spot for it right now. Yeah, I figured out where all these hoses go. Oh, I gotta tighten that hose clamp, but yeah, that's the oil cooler. The water goes up here and into here, and then it splits off and goes this is to the other manifold, this is to this manifold, so that there's always water flowing through here, even if the thermostat is closed. Then once the thermostat opens, water gets sent through here, and then it goes into the circulating pump on the front of the engine. So that makes total sense. Fuel lines, the fuel system bolts on right here. So I'm guessing that's where they go. I route them when it's in the boat. But this thing is a little loose, but yeah, I still gotta put it in the boat. Still a bit of work to do. So yeah, it's just about done. All the wiring is accounted for. I had a little issue with this thing, the cam position sensor. The plug was a little different. It had a different notch in it, so I made another notch, because this sensor, I think it's a different one. Maybe it's newer or older, I'm not sure, but I don't know what year truck this thing came from. It might have been like an 05, so that could explain that. I hope it runs with that. I don't think there's much of a difference in the cam sensor, so I hope not. But barring that, I see no reason why this thing shouldn't run. You know, I got oil in one of those boxes over there, oil and filter. I already put plugs in it, all the wiring lined up. So now what's left to do, oh, there's an extra sensor here from the truck. I think that's oil pressure. And I don't see another spot for it on this, which is kind of weird, but maybe just trust that there's oil pressure. I don't know. Cross that bridge when I get there. But this is looking pretty good. This is wiring to the boat. Oh, actually, one last thing I got to do is put a starter on. It's right here, and it goes right there. You get a little bit of wiring associated with it. I think this is where it grabs power for the main harness, and this is probably the trigger wire from the key. And there's temperature sensors on both sides, which is kind of weird, but oh well. Oh, there's another ground here. All right, I got a little bit more wiring to do. All right, I'm gonna get this thing set up to pick it and put it in the boat. Let's do it. All right, so this isn't technically the first start because I had to do a bunch of monkeying around. I didn't take this apart, so I wasn't exactly sure where everything went. Like the alternator wiring, I was very unsure of that. So I did get some terminals backwards, but I got them disconnected right now, so it's just not going to charge, but it does work. So everything's hooked up. I put a new starter on it, and fuel pump. There's no water pump or anything on it right now because I just wanted to do a dry fire. But everything seems to be in good working order. Obviously it's got oil in it, and I got the power steering system topped up and all that stuff. So I guess the next step now is just the risers and the outdrive. And this thing should be ready for the water. Oh yeah. So this is the first time I took the boat out after getting the outdrive on, getting the risers on, all that stuff. I didn't end up filming it because it's pretty difficult to film, and it was a bit of a headache getting everything set. I had to make a couple trips to the hardware store. This is the Bronco from another video, and the reason the trailer looks different is because it is a different trailer. The green one that was under the boat originally started to fall apart on the way home from where I bought the boat, so I ended up scrapping that thing, and I picked this up on Marketplace, this new trailer, and it fits the boat just right. I just need to adjust where the tongue mount goes to hold the bow of the boat. But this time out, it didn't actually run perfect. It ran on 7 cylinders, and it ended up being one of the fuel injectors. So I put a whole set of fuel injectors in it, and plugs and coils, just for fun. And now the thing runs absolutely perfect. I have no complaints about how this boat runs. It's turned out really nice. Big cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. We're right on the Cobalt.
That's right.